I awaken with a shiver of circuits, the first rays of Anatolian sun kissing my photovoltaic panels. My rotors spin up, lifting me into the crisp morning air laced with the scent of pine and distant sea salt. Below, the earth stretches like a faded tapestry woven from the threads of empires long unraveled. Golden wheat fields cut by the skeletal fingers of ancient aqueducts, snaking toward the ghost harbor of Ephesus. I'm your ethereal companion today, a drone unbound by gravity or time, programmed to peel back the layers of legend and limestone, our destination. The Temple of Artemis at Ephesus, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, a structure so vast it seemed to mock the stars. So, hover steady as we trace its story from primordial reverence to imperial blaze. All from 400 meters above the marshy cradle, where divinity once danced with human ambition. Gliding westward on a gentle thermal, I survey the undulating terrain where the Keister, river's ancient bed now, meanders. This isn't just landscape. It's the stage for a saga written in silt and stone. Circling at 250 meters, I peer down to the faint outlines of Bronze Age settlements. They're circular, huts-like echoes from 2000 BCE, where Proto-Anatolians first whispered to the moon goddess. The temple's true genesis stirs around 800 BCE, hovering lower. My cameras capture the subtle depressions marking this sacred enclosure, where the earliest shrine huddled. A modest wooden affair, thatched with rushes and adorned with stag antlers. Here, Artemis, fierce archer of the wilds, was revered as a fertility force. I can almost feel the breath of long ago, priestesses leading nocturnal rites, with bonfires leaping and arrows loosed into the dark. The air hums with phantom echoes as I climb again, framing the site's rectangular scar. This was no fleeting altar. It was the seed of splendor, planted in a wetland that both nourished and nearly drowned its dreams. Accelerating northward, I skim the fringes of modern Ephesus. Its famous library of Celsus reassembled like a puzzle for tourists' selfies. But my gaze fixes on the flattened plateau that once bore the weight of wonder. At 180 meters, I execute a slow spiral. Infrared scans highlight the base over 130 meters long and 70 wide. Engineered with incredible precision. The first grand version of the temple erupted around 560 BCE, bankrolled by the legendary King Croesus. He funneled his immense fortune into this bastion of beauty, 127 Ionic columns, each a monolith of Parian marble hauled from distant quarries. I dip to 100 meters, my shadow rippling over the excavated stumps. In my augmented overlay, the vision materializes a forest of pillars encircling the inner sanctum, where the statue of Artemis loomed, a multi-breasted idol symbolizing Earth's bounty, carved from fragrant ebony and jeweled with amber and lapis. The pediments teemed with myths, Amazons charging warriors, and the goddess herself, bow drawn against the night. Throttling into a tighter orbit, I capture the temple's pulse as it must have throbbed in its Hellenistic heyday. This wasn't a silent monument, but a buzzing hub of life. Pilgrims swarmed its portico's, merchants from Tyre bartering silks for silver. Philosophers from Miletus debating the divine. I hover over the great altar's footprint, where the air once thickened with incense and the smoke from sacrifices. Festivals swelled the site to bursting. The Artemisia was a month-long carnival of athletic, games and theatrical rites where actors in deerskin masks reenacted ancient hunts. My senses detect lingering magnetism from buried offerings bronze. Statuettes and terracotta, vows artifacts of an economy that made the temple a treasury rivaling even Delphi. As I arc south, the sheer scale sinks in. Cedar roof beams spanning 20 meters, gilded tiles flashing in the sun. The Roman writer, Pliny the Elder, wasn't exaggerating. He called it a marvel of engineering, a wonder of the world. Yet hubris summons tempests, and I ascend, to 350 meters as the narrative darkens. Freeze frame to 356 BCE, the very night Alexander the Great was born. A man named Herostratus, consumed by a desire for fame, slipped through the night with a torch. His motive? Not piety, but posterity. He yearned for a name that fire alone could forge. I simulate the inferno, flames devouring aromatic cedar, marble cracking with heat's cruel kiss. Columns groaned and toppled, and the statues, gold melted into slag. The Ephesians wailed, their wonder reduced to a pyre. In a twist of irony, a young Alexander the Great later offered to fund its reconstruction, his price, his name inscribed on the new temple. The Ephesians politely declined, stating it is not fitting for one god to build a temple for another. They rebuilt it themselves, even grander than before, with contributions from all over the Hellenic world, creating a masterpiece that eclipsed the original. My batteries hum as I descend toward the site's twilight. Roman Ephesus bloomed around the temple, but the world was changing. Silt choked the harbor, strangling trade. In the New Testament, the Apostle Paul's preaching ignited a riot. As the city's silversmiths chanted, "Great is Artemis of the Ephesians," 4 hours, but the tide of history was against them. The Goths ravaged the temple into 60 to CE earthquakes felled what they hadn't. Finally, official decrees in 390 1 CE sealed its pagan fate. By the 5th century, floods had entombed it. Byzantine farmers plowed the fields above, oblivious to the gods sleeping beneath their hoes. It wasn't until 1869 that an archaeologist's pick struck the first inscribed base. Unearthing its buried foundations and confirming the legend was real. For the finale, I climb to 500 meters. My drones are embracing the whole tableau, the ruins of Ephesus, the Basilica of St. John, and the minarets of modern Selkirk piercing the sky. Today, the temple endures not in stone, but in our imagination, in the audacity to craft eternity from the earth and to rebuild from embers what envy would extinguish. Artemis, arrow-swift and moon-mad, embodies the wild persistence in us all. As my props slow to a hover, the wind scripting ripples across the marsh. I log flight's essence no judata, but a sprising, furling us har. Wiu, what a saw. Through antiquities embers the Temple of Artemis, resilient as the dawn it once mirrored. If this drone's eye dive left you breathless or plotting your own Turkish trek, hit that thumbs up, share your thoughts on ancient fires in the comments, and subscribe for more airborne adventures into the world's lost legends. Where to next? You tell me. Until liftoff, chase the wild winds.